Hey, let me show you how to force June-bearing strawberries to flower in the winter. Come join me in the chaos. Alright, so I have a little experiment going here. Little June-bearing strawberries I put in my hydroponic systems, just so I'd have something growing. And I couldn't get them to produce flowers, just lots and lots of leaves. So I decided to do an experiment. I know that June-bearing strawberries, the plant knows when to bloom based on the length of day. And unfortunately, these systems don't let you change how long the light's on automatically. So what I started doing is I just set an alarm on my phone and I just started turning them off early. So did a little bit of research, and it seems about a 10-hour day is what these plants need to think that it's springtime. And the springtime produces the flowers that we associate these things with, June-bearing strawberries. So anyway, so all I did was turn the lights off for about 2 weeks, a little early. And then once I started seeing, this is what the flowers look like when they get bigger. Let me see if I can, yeah, if you look right here, this is what they look like when they're starting to produce what will eventually become a flower. So that particular growth right there, that's going to become a flower. So once I started seeing that, then I switched that, I stopped shortening the day and then put them back to the full automatic 15-hour cycle. And so now these flowers are developing. This one right here is already opened up. So making June-bearing strawberries bloom in November. So I should have fruit, ripe fruit, either December or January. I think it takes, what, like a month and a half or something for, I'm not exactly sure. I guess I'll find out how long it takes for the flowers to become ripe fruit. You can kind of see, if you look at the center of the flower where that strawberry is going to eventually develop. Probably going to have to pollinate these. I've heard that you can shake the flowers or a wind can pollinate them, but I'll probably just use a Q-tip. I've heard people use paintbrushes as well, but I think a Q-tip should work fine. And then all you do is you take the Q-tip and the source, the pollen, the anthers, or the little black thingies around the outside. And you're just going to gather the pollen from those and then spread them all over the center area. Each of those little hairs needs to be pollinated so you get a nice symmetrical fruit. Anyway, very, very simple process. I wish I would have known it was that easy, then I wouldn't have sat here with, because I've done this before and I just never got strawberries, and so I got fed up and just kind of got rid of them and started growing other things. But then I did a little bit of research and I'm like, I wonder if I can make them fruit by changing the length of day. I don't know why that didn't occur to me before. It seems pretty obvious now. So if you've ever had trouble trying to grow strawberries indoors, upset that you can't get them to fruit because they're June-bearing, and you're like, darn it, I should have bought ever-bearing strawberries. It doesn't really matter. If you want to get those giant fruits, you just force them to fruit by changing the length of day, and then boom, you get flowers. And then it's up to you to make sure those flowers get pollinated, and then you'll get fruit. But yeah, the trick is to getting them to grow flowers. And to do that, all you got to do is change the length of day. Hope that helps you to grow strawberries, even if they're June-bearing, any time of the year that you want. You don't have to get a special day neutral or whatever they're calling it now. You just simply turn the lights off or cover them so that they're not getting light, the last few hours of the normal summer day if you want them to, give a second fruit. Just note that if you make them fruit too much, the starch stores in the plant drop and then you get smaller fruit, which is why typically those day neutral or ever-bearing strawberries have smaller berries. It's because if you make them fruit only once a year like you do in June-bearing, obviously that's going to be a massive berry because there's just so much energy to put into each individual fruit. You can kind of see that with pumpkins too. You make all the energy go to one single pumpkin, and obviously that one pumpkin is going to be bigger than if you let those 10 pumpkins all simultaneously develop from the same plant. So if you want, like I said, all you got to do is change the length of day. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Thanks for joining me in the chaos. All right, so if you've never used a Q-tip for pollinating before, so you could just use the Q-tip as it is. You could use a paintbrush. I like to kind of bring some of the cotton to a point just so I can be more precise. But again, as long as you pollinate the flower properly, it doesn't really matter how you do it. So something like that in theory would be good. You also want to make sure that the flower actually has dropped pollen onto its anthers. So let me show you what you do next. And then with your pollinator slash paintbrush ready, you just go to the flower. And around the outside of strawberry flowers is typically where the pollen will be. I don't know if this flower is ready yet. Usually the petals are a little bit more flat, you know what I mean, when the pollen is there. So an easy way to tell though is you use a white brush or a white Q-tip, and then you just go see if you pick up any yellow. So I don't see any pollen yet. This flower is probably not even ready to pollinate. I have seen people though, what they'll do is if they want to do some type of a cross pollination, like breed two different strawberries together, you cut the anthers off before they start producing pollen on the flower that you want to pollinate with the pollen from the other plant. And then that way you don't have to worry about it pollinating itself. But yeah, this one doesn't have any pollen to pollinate yet, so I'll have to try again, check on it tomorrow. That's how you would do it if it did have pollen. And then of course this flower's, you know, a few days away, but you can see that that's going to also become a strawberry flower. So pretty exciting. And then I just noticed right here, there's 3 more strawberry flowers. Yeah, that strawberry's developing. Woohoo!